The upper control arm bushings pressed into the axle housing of 1979 through 2004 Mustangs will eventually require replacement, either because they are damaged or because the rubber has degraded due to age. This axle housing came from a 1988 Mustang. While removing the housing from your Mustang is not required, having it out does improve access. Maximum Motorsports manufactures this tool, part number MMT-1, to make an easy job of removing the old bushings and installing new bushings. The tool works on the 8.8-inch and 7.5-inch solid axle housings that the 1979 to 2004 Mustangs were equipped with. Printed instructions are included and are also posted on the Maximum Motorsports website. The tool consists of several parts: the bushing removal cup, the bushing installation cup, the large flat disc, the small flat disc, a 7/16" grade 8 bolt, 6 grade 8 flat washers, and a 7/16" grade 8 nut. It is important to use anti-seize compound to reduce friction. That not only reduces effort, it also helps the tool survive to the end of the job. A really good penetrating oil helps a lot. Our favorite is Aerocroil. These new bushings from Maximum Motorsports are from the same manufacturer that Ford sources their replacement bushings from. Spray the penetrating oil so it will seep into the joint. Let the oil soak in for as long as your patience allows. Soaking for several hours is good. Soaking overnight is even better. Apply the anti-seize compound to both sides of all 6 flat washers. And coat the bolt threads. Use sandpaper to clean off any rust on the inboard end of the bushing shell. Some oil on the cleaned end will help it slide through the housing. With the bolt inserted through 3 washers and the large removal cup, slip it through the center crush sleeve of the bushing. Place the small flat disc on the bolt, followed by 3 washers, and then the nut. Use a combination of the wrenches and sockets from your toolbox to pull the bushing out of the axle housing. Keep going until the bushing comes free. Moving to the driver's side bushing, be sure to reapply anti-seize to all of the washers before placing the bolt, washers, and removal cup in place. Put the small flat disc with 3 recoated washers onto the bolt, followed by the nut. Start tightening the nut and bolt. Once the slack was taken up, this bushing proved to be more stubborn than the first. This required the extra leverage provided by a long breaker bar to get the bushing shell free from the axle. Once moved, it is back to the ratchet to pull the bushing the rest of the way out. After the bushing is removed, use sandpaper to clean up any rust inside the bore of the axle housing. Coat the inside of the bore with oil. Also coat the outside of the bushing shell. Place the bolt and the 3 washers with a fresh coat of anti-seize through the large flat disc and then through the center crush sleeve of the new bushing. Then set the bushing against the housing. Place the bushing installation cup along with the 3 washers recoated with anti-seize in place on the bolt. The flat should be towards the axle casting. Thread the nut onto the bolt. Use your tools to draw the bushing into the axle housing. The threads on the bolt are not long enough to allow the bushing to go all the way into place. Pay attention to when you feel the nut bottom out at the end of the threads and stop turning. Loosen and remove the nut. Remove the tool from the bushing. Remove the large flat disc from the bolt. Place the small flat disc on the bolt and put the large flat disc back on the bolt. Put the bolt with the discs and washers back through the bushing, and put the installation cup, washers, and nut back into place on the bolt. Resume tightening the nut to draw the bushing in. When the bushing bottoms out against the installation cup, you will feel the effort increase dramatically. Stop turning as the bushing is now in its proper location. Remove the tool from the bushing and repeat on the other side. Coat the inside of the bore with oil. And coat the outside of the bushing shell. Place the bolt with the 3 washers recoated with anti-seize through the large flat disc, and then through the center crush sleeve of the new bushing. Place the bushing installation cup in place with the flat towards the axle casting, and then the bushing against the housing and the bolt through the installation cup. This axle will require removing the nut holding the brake hose bracket to the center section to allow lifting the bracket up for clearance for the tool. Three flat washers with a fresh coat of anti-seize are placed on the bolt, followed by the nut. Use your tools to draw the bushing into the axle housing. When you feel the nut bottom out at the end of the threads, stop turning. Remove the bolt and large flat disc. Remove the nut, washers, and installation cup. Place the small flat disc on the large flat disc, followed by the 3 washers, and then insert the bolt through them all. Put the bolt with the discs and washers back through the bushing, and put the installation cup, washers, and the nut back into place on the bolt. Resume tightening the nut to draw the bushing in. When the bushing bottoms out against the installation cup, you will feel the effort increase dramatically. Stop turning as the bushing is now in its proper location. Remove the tool from the bushing. The old bushings are ready for the scrap bin.